All right, pizza week. So tonight I'm going to be going over my sourdough recipes for a Napoli-style pizza crust. You're going to get a lot of practice watching this one. I'm actually going to be testing 3 different types of flours with the same recipe, and I'm just trying to see, if there's any differences or inconsistencies between the 3, which works better. Just so I can, I'm constantly tweaking these recipes and changing them, and I've just recently changed the flour. I was using Arva flour, which was the flour that we used in the office, and I've started to get away from that. I was talking to some chefs in town, and they've been finding lots of inconsistencies with that flour, so I'm trying something new. So the first one we're going to try is just a great value organic all-purpose flour. I also have this Caputo 00 flour, and then another 00 from Italy, a Vita Sana. So those are the 3 flours that we're going to be doing. I've gone ahead and I've pre-measured out my flour. So for this recipe, we're going to go in for 351 grams of flour and 7 grams of salt. That can get that scaled out and set aside. Okay, and I've gone and done that for all 3. And the next stage is going to be doing your your starter. So I'm going to just talk about the starter here for a second. So I've actually got 2 on the go right now. I have this guy here. This is Igor. Igor is the starter from our sourdough bread at the office. He is very lively. Now, when you're working with sourdough, you want to make sure that you if you've been storing your starter in the fridge, you want to make sure it's out for a day, maybe even 2 days, and you're feeding it so that it's really active when you're going to use it. Like you should be seeing these active bubbles, like you can see there, like it's alive. Igor is alive. Okay, so that's one starter that I have. The second starter is a new one that I started just a little over a week ago, and he's kind of a clone of Igor and an organic rye flour that I started. So it's a little darker. It's a completely different smell and aroma to it. Igor is very vinegary and very sour. This one's really interesting. It's almost kind of cheesy. So I'm going to try this in one of them and see what happens and see if I have any different variations just for fun. Okay, cooking should be fun. So what I want to do is I want to scale out the starter and the water. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 49 grams of starter and then 245 grams of water. All right. So I'm zeroed out my scale. I'm going to add a little bucket here. And starting with the first, let's do this with Igor. Oh, that's a little bit over. Now, if you don't get it bang on, it's okay. It's not gonna make too much of a difference, but try to get it as close as you can. Okay. And zero that out again. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 245 grams of water. Now at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, I'll put this in the recipe. A warm water works better. Now I had my kettle on, and my kettle actually has a little temperature gauge on the side, so that makes it super simple. What I did was I brought it to a boil, let it sit for a while, and now it's come down to around 90. I'm going to add that in for the 245 grams. Just slightly over. Not bad, I'll take it. Now take that and then whisk it with your fork. You want to incorporate starter in the warm water. Okay. Next up, we're going to move over to the stand mixer. Now, I'm using a tabletop KitchenAid stand mixer. If you're doing the same method, now you could do this by hand. There is another method to do it by hand. it's very tiring. Okay, so I'm just being a little bit lazy. That's why I'm doing this. But if you want, I can give you another method to do it by hand, or I can point you some videos and ways to do it by hand if you want to do the old-fashioned way. But I'm gonna use a dough hook on here. First one I'm going to do is the organic AP, just the normal flour with the salt, and put that in the stand mixer. Bring my bowl up, I'm just going to turn that on. And then take that mixture, the starter and water, make sure nothing's settled there. And you're going to slowly add this in as you turn. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit and then slowly add it in. You can see it's slowly coming together. It's starting to take all the flour off the sides. And it will eventually come together in a ball. There we go, you can see the sides of the bowl are getting cleaned up. It's all starting to ball up from a ball in the middle with the hook. That's what we want right there. I just want to stop this for a second while I explain this. So this next stage is the gluten development. Okay, so I'm going to actually turn up the speed and really whip it up. And that's just to get the gluten moving, to make it really stretchy, to help us give a good structure to the dough. It's going to get sloppy. Now you can let it go like that for between, anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes to really get that gluten moving. So now you can imagine how much energy it would take to do this stage with your hands. This is why it's definitely an advantage to have the mixer with the dough hook. Okay, I'm going to pop the dough off of there now. Just peel it back off the hook. It's very wet. And you know what? That's okay. That's what we're looking for in this style of dough. It's going to be wet. I'm going to show you some tricks to dealing with it with your hands to kind of keep your hands clean as you're working with it. One of them is to just rinse your hand under cold water. And when your hand is wet with the cold water, you can actually really grab it and it doesn't stick to your hand. Let's scrape that out of the bowl. We're going to use this again. I'm just going to grab an extra stainless steel bowl, wet my hands again. That way I can grab this dough into the bowl. You can get yourself a bench scraper. It's a great tool to have. All baking. Get this off my cutting board. Get that in there too. It's fine. Okay. And now we're going to set a timer for 1 hour, and we're going to put this into the bulk fermentation part. Label this up so I don't forget which one it is. This is our organic AP. Set a timer, 1 hour. After the 1 hour, we're going to come back. I'm going to show you how to turn it. This next pizza dough recipe, we're going to do a little bit different. Not a sourdough. We're going to be doing a dough with a fresh yeast. Okay, so I picked this up. It's massive. At International Bakery, I believe. International Bakery. It's a good place to get this. They have it in the back. It lasts in your fridge for a very long time. It's way more effective than using dry yeast. So we're going to use some of that in this recipe today. This one is going to be with the 00 Vita Sana flour, available on Amazon. What it is, I went ahead and weighed out the flour, 500 grams of flour. I've got 12.5 grams of salt, just kosher salt, 275 milliliters of room temperature water, and I need about 2.5 to 3 grams of yeast. So let's open this up and take a look. We'll weigh that out. If you've never seen this before, this might be interesting for you. It smells kind of like a brewery. That's the best way to describe it. Okay, so I'm going to scale this out. And just shave off a little bit of what I need. You can see just a little bit. That's all we need here. There we go. 4. Okay, a little bit less. Between 3 and 4, that's fine, okay? Don't throw this out, okay? You can wrap all this up. So just take the leftover yeast, wrap that up nice and tightly in some saran wrap and fire that back in your fridge. Okay, so we've got the 2.5 to 3 grams of fresh yeast there. We've got our salt in another bowl. Take that water, and then just about, you want half the water in each one. Not enough water to dissolve the salt. And also the yeast. Yeast first. The reason why we separate this is that because salt will actually deter your yeast from activating, okay? So that's why we keep it separate in the beginning. Dissolving your salt in the water like this is a real good way to ensure you got even distribution of the salt within the flour when you do the mix. Let the yeast sit for about 5-10 minutes. All right, so flour set, water and salt dissolved, yeast ready to go. Got my stand mixer ready to go here. I also, last thing I'll need is some extra virgin olive oil and a measuring spoon. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna put my flour, the 500 grams, in there. Bring our bowl up and then just turn this on nice and slowly. First, we're going to add in the yeast and water portion. Make sure it's well mixed. And just let this go for about 1 minute. down off the sides. We're gonna get kind of like a shaggy mess look. After the minute, slowly add the rest of the salted water. Now, if you're doing this by hand, this might take like another 5 to 10 minutes of kneading at this stage. So I'm just going to go until it comes together into a ball, and then maybe for about 2 minutes with the mixer. Now this dough's still looking kind of dry, but we still have to add 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil and then go for an additional 5 minutes of kneading after that. I'm now going to add some olive oil. Start with the 1 tablespoon. Add in the other half. Oh, the olive oil smells good. Slow this down a little bit so you can see that dough ball. It's all, the bowl's nice and clean. All the flour's off the side. It's really kind of come around that hook. Now what we want to do is we want to ensure a real good knead and get all that olive oil fat through the dough. So we're going to let this just go for an additional 5 minutes, and then I'm going to show you the next stage. Okay, that dough's done mixing. Now we're going to get ready for the bulk fermentation for 1 hour. I'm just going to grab this big plastic bowl that I have with a lid, because this is going to come in handy, because after the 1 hour fermentation, or bulk fermentation, we're going to divide it in half, and then we're going to place it in the fridge for at least 30 hours. Okay, so probably won't get to this one tomorrow, but I will have time on Wednesday to show you some pieces of this one. And then tomorrow, on Tuesday, I'll do follow-ups with the sourdoughs and how to cook those. But to continue with this, let's just go ahead and put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom and just use that to kind of grease up the bowl. Don't want too much, just enough to coat the bowl. Okay. Let's take a look at our dough. This is a way different recipe than the sourdough. Okay, it's not as wet. It's way more firm. The dough came out nice and clean. I'm just gonna feel that for a minute there. I'm gonna roll it into a ball. It's a nice consistency. Pop that in the bowl. Put the lid on so it doesn't dry out. Okay, and then set the timer for an hour on this one, and then we'll come back for the next stage. Okay, so it's been an hour. Going to do the first turn on the sourdough. This one's the organic flour. So as I was saying earlier, dough is really wet and kind of sticky. So if you don't want to stick to your hands, run your hand under cold water. Get it wet. And you can grab it. You want to grab, pull it, stretch it, turn it, and fold. Okay? And do that like 3 to 4 times. Need some more water. Replace the plastic wrap. Set your timer for 30 minutes, and then you're going to do that again, and then again after that. So you're going to turn it 3 times every half hour for a total of 1.5 hours. So same thing on the other flours, just going to give them a turn. So I'll give you one more cook demo. Wet hand. Grab, pull, and stretch, fold. Pull, stretch, fold. Pull, stretch, fold. Yeah, the sourdough is a labor of love. Same thing, set timer, 30 minutes. 2 more times after that for a total of 3 turns for 1.5 hours. All right, so let's take a look. Here it's been an hour. Let's take a look at our fresh yeast dough. I'm gonna pop it out of the bowl. It's about doubled in size. Actually, using the same container, I'm gonna prep this now for the fridge. So let's make it into some equal dough balls. I'm gonna probably cut this into 6. Now, if you want to get it exact, let me go ahead and throw these on the scale. That's a nice looking dough. Let's do that actually. Let's take a look at the scale and see how much each one weighs when divided in 6. Oh, about 154. Oh, 154. A bit less on that one. 28. Good enough. So just taking each one of these, just kind of knock the air out and then just roll them. Just like so. All right, so they're all rolled out, okay? Give a little bit of structure. Now I'm just gonna take that same bowl, a little bit more olive oil. Mix that up. Place these in there. Just kind of roll them around a little bit so they won't stick to each other. Place the lid, and then fire this in the fridge for 30 hours for a long ferment. The fermentation is important when you're making pizza dough. Helps break down the proteins in the wheat gluten, makes it more digestible. That's why when you have a pizza that's been made with a dough that's been made properly with a long fermentation, you usually don't feel super bloated. All right, so it's time to get the sourdough ready for the fridge. So gone through the, half hour, and then a turn, half hour, then a turn, half hour, then a turn for 1.5 hours. Get this out of the bowl. Grab a little bit of olive oil. Just a little bit to grease. bowl. Now it is wet, it's a little bit sticky. That's okay. Just grab a little bit flour. Just a light dusting. Don't want to add too much or we don't want to mess with the consistency of the dough. But what I want to do is create a little bit of structure just by giving it a spin. It's kind of like a pinch and a spin action, like so. And that will tighten up to a nice dough ball. Very satisfying. Okay, so take your oil bowl, place your dough in there, cover with plastic wrap, and then in the fridge for a minimum 14 hours. You can go up to 20 hours on a sourdough if you want. It seems to be okay then. And then, yeah, I'll wait to see what kind of action we have going on tomorrow. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other two. And, yeah.